Look, I see matches in the kingdom. I see hunters slaying demons. I see fire on this earth coming down like Hiroshima. I see prophets rising up, prophesying scriptures cut. I see Christ, he coming back, and he black, he look like us. I see it, 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 I see it.
Are we live? We are not a hate group. We're not affiliated with any other Israelite group. Israel United in Christ is a nonviolent, Bible-based movement. We do not advocate or condone any acts of violence against any race, ethnicity, or gender. We advise that if anyone hears or knows of any plots to cause harm to anyone or to break the laws of the land, you must contact the proper authorities to bring awareness to any possible threat, as stated in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1.
Hey, Shalom, Israel, Most High and Christ bless. Welcome to the Late Show. Y'all stay with us. All right, stay with us. It's the Late Show. We are Precept upon Precept. My name is Captain Shem.
Officer Matthew.
Officer Mikael.
Officer Micah.
So all praise to the Lord. So look, check this out. But like we do, we have our new format that we've been doing for the last couple months. We start first with Officer Micah. He gives you the up-to-date news, what's going on in the world from a non-Caucasian perspective. So with that, we have the Watchman report with Officer Micah. Take it away.
Shalom, Israel, Most High and Christ bless. Good evening. Let's get right into the report. Do not want to hold up the show. Kim Jong-un plans to meet Vladimir Putin in Russia, U.S. officials say. Look at this dude, man. Kim Jong, he getting it in. A rocket man, as Trump called him. Next article, please. The U.S. is growing increasingly frustrated with Ukraine's tactics. It could put the counteroffensive in jeopardy. This was a really good read. This was a really good read. They get mad. Oh, down in Texas. They're growing big in Texas, huh? Black people are effing lazy. Texas company displayed hate symbols and nooses, allowed managers to call black employees the N-word. Alarming EEOC lawsuit alleges. So they call you black and they call you N-word and they can show you a noose. Texas ain't playing, huh? Hurricane Lee rapidly intensifies into major Category 4 storm, on track to be dangerous Category 5 on Friday. So, hey, let's make sure that we getting our stuff together, still hurricane season, and make sure we're preparing accordingly. And this concludes the Watchman Report.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shalom, Most High and Christ bless. Hey, I hope y'all got something on last week's show with Anthony Crawford. The brothers went into the history. Y'all check out Anthony Crawford. We did another show last year, or maybe about a guy who's should be in every black household name, and that was our brother. Doggone
Robert Smalls.
Robert Smalls. He stole a doggone warship, rescued his family, and made it to the north. That guy, and then after he changed policy. Anthony Crawford, Robert Smalls. I'm not taking nothing from Harriet Tubman. I'm not taking anything from Martin Luther King Jr., right? But these guys, man, if I had to come up knowing about Robert Smalls and about Anthony Crawford, I would have had a different outlook as a child. I think we all would have. Mm-hmm. And we're going to, every once in a while, we're going to touch on major black men in history who have not gotten the recognition that they so deserve. So without further ado, tonight's show is going to be a continuation from we've been at least 6 months, actually more than that, since the war in Ukraine versus Russia. We've been covering the lead up to this.
Yes, sir.
So tonight's show is, Officer Mikael is on point. Why don't you break that down for us?
So what we have here is Brics versus the West. And as you can see, the West is wrapped in the USA flag. Why? Because the USA is the most important country in the West. You know, ain't nobody talking about Canada when they talk about the West. Ain't nobody talking about Mexico. You know, it's the eagle, Babylon. So Brics versus the West. As you can see, the Brics flags, all those countries, and the United States flag. And it says the plot thickens, because as we're going to go into tonight, things are starting to get thick. Things are starting to get heavy with this whole Brics versus the West thing.
Hey, that's a damn good graphic right there.
Hey, all praise to the Most High.
Who made that?
I did.
Okay, brother, getting better.
Hey, and he made it today, because I did actually. He made it in very quick time. So, and if you look right here, the actual, it's kind of cool how they have the B for Brazil, and it has the flag of that particular country. The R for Russia, that's their flag. Then the same thing with India, as well as China and South Africa. Yes. So, well, I was in a predictory spirit, because Saudi Arabia is one of them, and now they have 11. So let's get right to the show and get into it, y'all. And, hey, shout out to you, brothers, as you see 12 tribes worldwide with the international ministry. I tell all the brothers in New Orleans, and all of you brothers out there should be working actively, proactively, to get your passports. Position yourselves. Why you got to get a brand new car? A brand new car and buy the biggest house. You don't need name brand clothes. Position yourself. Live minimally the best you can, okay, in captivity, so that when you get the call, or if you have the opportunity to volunteer, like Bishop said, he said at the men's conference, he said, mention at Passover, look, you can get ready to roll. All you men should be wanting. It's great to travel, going to, different schools in the U.S. That's beautiful, right? But getting a chance, like Officer Matthew, okay, y'all, you have seen him, and other brothers who are traveling internationally. That should be everybody's goal. Not everybody's going to be able to do it, but strive, all right? Position yourself. You don't need a brand new car. You don't need to run with the Joneses, okay? The Joneses are swimming over their head with credit card debt right now. So, number one, Gabe, give me the YouTube short, please, sir. And by the way, like I said, it's a late show. I'm on 200 milligrams of caffeine. It's, so y'all got to interject. We're going to roll tonight, all right? So let's check it out. All right, let this thing play, and we're going to, we'll play it again.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates.
Real quick, pause. I just want to say one thing. I want you, tech team, to in the back, let's have the map that indicates the other 6 that have been added. And so we're going to let it play out, and then we're going to break it down, and we're going to pull the map up, because it's very important. We talked about the builder. This is major. And play on.
Members of Brics, the membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
All right, so, y'all, this is why is this major? Because the countries that he said are very pivotal with regards to the amount of resources, world's population, gross GDP, gross domestic product. All this is going to tie in. So let it play one more time, and then pull the map, please.
And it's the dragons of Arabia.
Ooh.
The ones that he named, those were, except for one, it was Ethiopia.
I think. Argentina and Ethiopia.
Yeah, those are the only 2, but the rest of them are the dragons of Arabia.
Hey, later on, we're going to say that Esau is remember the scriptures speak about, and they will remember their nature in Ezra, 2nd Ezra. Esau was a huge part of dividing the Arab world. Huge part. Now, they had some differences going back, but Esau was in the midst, and we got proof tonight to show you that. So play it, let the whole thing play again. Let it soak in, and remember the names he's going to say.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of Brics. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
All right, so we can pull up the world map, and mind you, brothers and sisters, that this just happened August 24th. So today is September 7th. So that's about 2 weeks ago. This just happened. So this is fresh on the horizon, if you will. And now pull that world map so we can look at. Let's start with the first country you mentioned, which was Argentina. So all of y'all at home, we're gonna take our time. Why is this incredibly important? Let's just look at the logic, right? Let's just look at the very basic reasoning. Why is this so important from regards to a growth with Brics? I want the people at home, because we have a couple faithful listeners. Why do you think this is so important? Just look at the map. I want you to meditate on that. We're going to come back to that, right? The next one, he mentioned Ethiopia. And I think it's really kind of strange. Well, I think this is very powerful. Because if you look at Ethiopia, it literally, along with Yemen, you see there's a strait there? There should be a strait that goes into that waterway. Is that the Red Sea? What is that? I can't remember what that one is.
That is the Red Sea.
So
Up there, right there. That's the Red Sea.
there we go. So Yemen and Ethiopia, well, actually, Eritrea, I think Eritrea is also there. But look at the geographic position between Ethiopia and its relationship to Saudi Arabia. Look at it. It's the other side. It's the other side. The next country they mentioned was...
Hey, Cap, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Argentina.
Yes.
Argentina. Now, the BRICS money is going to be backed by precious metals and stuff, right?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Well, Argentina has Argentina's current top mineable ore minerals are gold, silver, and copper.
Wow.
Hey.
Wow. Wow.
To back you up biblically, can I get Deuteronomy 33 and 23?
That's it. That's in the scriptures. Y'all, listen, this is, like Deacon Malachi always says, it looks good, but Esau ain't going to allow this to go down, but it's going to make it look like he about to do something.
Right. Read that for me.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 23.
Uh-huh.
And of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord.
It says, and full with the blessing of the Lord. That is going into the minerals. What are they again?
So Argentina's current top mineable ore minerals are gold, silver, and copper.
Gold, silver, and copper.
Argentina is home to the world's third largest lithium reserve.
Lithium. You know what they use for lithium?
Go ahead. Bring it out.
Batteries. Lithium batteries. Hey, read the verse again.
And of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thee the west and the south.
So it shows you exactly where they're at. In the south, in the western hemisphere, at the southern tip, Argentina is where Naphtali is, and Naphtali is blessed with all these mineral riches, and Brics just signed them up. So they're playing chess, not checkers.
Hey, you know what? When you look at that world map again, right? Check this out. So once we get back to the map, okay. So if you look at Argentina, coupled with obviously Brazil, as we know, Brazil has the largest population of black people in the entire Western Hemisphere, bar none. So Brazil has the bulk of the population in South America. Now, geographically, more than 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the entire South America now is going to be in. And the other thing is, look at how much of the coastline. It's all. Look at how many ports you have in Brazil. Look how many ports you have in Argentina. So it's absolutely, it's huge. And as we go into tonight's show, you're going to see that they are playing chess. All right. So we went to Argentina. We went to Ethiopia. The next country was, I won't go in any specific order. We went to go to Saudi Arabia. Now, why is this so important? Why is Saudi Arabia so important? Well, number one, look up, it just came to me. In 1974, or was it 73, look up the petro. There was a deal that Saudi Arabia made with the U.S. that all exchanges of their oil had to go through the U.S. dollar. That was one of the biggest the biggest financial gains for the United States of America. That is absolute. We've got a frozen screen here.
I think it's the petrodollar.
Petrodollar.
Hey, we frozen, y'all. Is that?
We still
Yeah, it's showing frozen live.
frozen live. Uh-oh. All right. Technical difficulties, y'all.
So they could hear us, but you know, the screen is just
All right. So listen, y'all. Y'all stay vigilant, stay focused with us. So I want you to, all right, so pull up the world map one more time. And we're going to move on after this. All right, so Saudi Arabia. Remember, if we could just pull up the petro, I think it was 73. We're going to read a quick article because the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. is absolutely pivotal for what's going to happen in January 1st between the alliance between two of these countries in Arabia.
Petrodollar. Petrodollar meaning petrodollar or petrocurrency refers to the U.S. dollar traded for worldwide crude oil exports. And facilities.
it facilitates.
It facilitates.
There we go.
It facilitates the investment of export gains as the dollar is the world's reserve currency. Moreover, the petrodollar history dates back to the U.S.-Saudi agreement in the 1970s, including the recycling of additional oil profits, and the system is still strong, defying the rumors of possible collapse. Petrodollar denotes the U.S. dollar global exchange for crude oil exports.
So I'm going to look at this graphic here. So if you look at the gray flag on your left side, right, y'all, it says oil exporting nation. So the oil exporting nation in this particular case, import means if I receive goods coming into my country. If I export oil, like Saudi Arabia, I'm exporting crude oil or oil products. So they deliver the oil to the oil importing nation, say France, right? So Saudi Arabia delivers the oil to France, delivers it to Czechoslovakia, delivers it to the United States, right? Canada. That oil importing nation has to pay not in the dollar of the oil exporting nation, they got to pay in the U.S. dollar. So that is why the U.S. has dominated internationally for the last 50-something years. There was a huge, huge agreement. And remember what happened, we've covered before. Remember when under Dick Nixon, there was an act when the U.S. devalued the dollar and no longer backed it by the gold standard or precious metal standard. Now it's backed by the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
So the U.S. has been a financial bully, an international monopolizer, And that's exactly what Brics is trying to stop. So keep that in mind. Let's go back to the map. I'm going much too slow. Forgive me. We got to speed up. All right, so we got Saudi Arabia. Remember that, okay? Also, Bishop Nathaniel has been going heavy on the Arab slave trade and how they have destroyed. Guess where Mecca is? Mecca is in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of you may not know that. Mecca, where they do their Hajj, the Kaaba stone, is in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is seen as the capital or the leader of the Arab world. And Iran, that's what the beef, a lot of it is about, is Iran wants to be seen as the leader. And the U.S. was, well, you'll see a little bit later on, they try to divide and conquer them as well. Next was Iran. Iran. And then after that, it was the thank you, sir. Go ahead, break that down, Mikhail.
The UAE is the United Arab Emirates. And what you see is they actually have that whole coastline all the way around, except for maybe Iraq, with all the countries that they brought into BRICS.
Okay, so we've got Argentina, we did Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, and there was one other one.
Egypt.
Was it Egypt?
Egypt, yep.
Okay, Egypt. So, and again, look at Ethiopia's position, right? And look at Egypt's position. They still share the waterway of the Red Sea. So this right here is very strategic when you look at this. So those are the 6 nations. So can we get article number 2? Number 2. All right, y'all, bear with me. Bear with us tonight. Bear with us. Matter of fact, do I want to get that? Give me second just about the dragons of Arabia, just because Officer Matthew quoted it before, and this is part of it. This is not the full awakening, but this is part of it. 2nd Ezra chapter 14, I think it is. At the point, go 2 verses above that.
Yes, sir. The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, and verse 29.
Correction, 15. Thank you.
Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble.
Because that's why they have the 12 princes of Ishmael. They were given blessings. What was their blessing? Their blessing is wealth. Where did their wealth come from? The natural resources of the lands that they live on, which is oil and all of the byproducts thereof. Read on.
Also, the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars.
Now, the Carmanians, Officer Matt, we remember this, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the Iranians. Okay, the Carmanians is the Iranian. Interesting. Interesting. The Iranians. Read on.
Shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood.
Remember, they're called the wild. Ishmael was a wild man, right? They do things you don't see, with the exception of the Japanese kamikaze pilots in World War II. You don't see the Japanese doing that today, but you will find your friendly neighborhood Arab blow his ass up in a local venue outside and take everybody with him. He's wild. Okay.
And they have no fear of doing it because they legit believe that there's a reward after.
That's right. That's right. And IUIC has gone into that many times. Bishop has a great class called, what's the name? Ishmael. He has The Truth to Make You See, a free series. He goes into Ishmael, and it's an hour long. Check it out. He goes into the prophecy heavy. Matter of fact, y'all need to, if y'all have not seen The Truth Shall Make You Free series from years ago, go binge watch them. Go watch them all, okay? Read on.
They are available on IUIC TV.
Yeah, because on YouTube, that one by Ishmael, they got it blocked. You can't watch that one.
So what you're saying is, if they need to go to
IUIC TV.
Go to IUIC, subscribe, and you'll be able to watch that world-renowned content. You're not gonna find that from any other teaching, okay, in the world. All right. Read on.
And with great power shall they come, and join with them and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand.
So the dragons is talking about the dragons of Arabia. We just reviewing this. Read on.
Remembering their nature.
Say what again?
Remembering their nature.
So what we're going to get into tonight is that the 2 out of the 6 that are probably the most influential is Saudi Arabia and Iran. We just read prophetically about the Armenians, which are the Iranians. We just read about that. They're going to, and this is the beginning of them remembering who they are. In China, most are using China to go in and foster that peace. And guess who broke them apart? You're going to see who broke them apart, who tried to break, just like they tried to break us apart here. They tried to divide all the African nations. Guess who's behind the scenes? You're going to find out. Go back to that number 2, please.
Minds of a lot of my viewers recently is everything that's unfolding, almost like a new Cold War. It's appearing to be in West Africa. We recently saw a coup in Niger, and now you have all these, I believe it's referred to as Akawas, which is like the band of West African states. Some of them are still pro-Western, some of them not, due to recent military coups and military juntas that have
Pause
taken
real
control.
quick. You might say, well, why are you going here? Well, one of the reasons why is because when you look at the continent of Africa, obviously South Africa is already in Brics, but also there are Ethiopia as well as Egypt are the other 2 that are now being joined to Brics. So South Africa, Ethiopia, and now Egypt, well, guess what? That opens the gateway for the other African nations, and they are sick and tired of the West, like Officer Mickey, the West versus Brics, right? So now we're going to hear it from a white man who was either a colonel or lieutenant colonel in a board meeting with a bunch of other Edomite generals, and watch what he has to say. We're going to let this play.
Burkina Faso, for example. But Russia has a lot of ties to these nations like Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and of course, the new government in Niger. And Niger is now talking about bringing in Wagner forces all throughout the country. That was just reported on a few hours ago. They had a meeting in Mali yesterday. Do you foresee even a possibility of something unraveling there, like widespread fighting and war taking place between Western and Russian-backed powers in West Africa?
Pause it real quick. Look up the Wagner Group. The Wagner groups are, I believe, they're Russian mercs, okay? They're Russian privatized army that was there because what happens is the U.S., matter of fact, here's the deal. You might say, well, Russia, the Russian Edomites are the devil too. But they're a little bit nicer devils. Like, for example, they were going to forgive over $30 billion of loans that some African countries had with Russia. They're just going to forgive the loan. They're willing to send tons and thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of grains to African countries for free. Now, they have interest in the land as well. And by them sending the private armies over there, they're going to try to get a stronghold. And the U.S. don't want that. The U.S. is so damn greedy, they want to take everything and leave nothing. Russia's like, okay, I want this stuff. Let me make life easy for them. And that's what's going on right now.
They gift destroyed the heart.
Yes. So listen to this guy. Yeah, Wagner Group. Thank you.
Wagner Group. The Wagner Group. Russian. Can't read Russian. Is a Russian state-funded private military company controlled until 2023 by Yevgeny Prigozhin. I think.
Good try. We ain't getting that one.
A former close ally of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. The Wagner Group has used infrastructure of the Russian armed forces.
So pause. So those are private. It's a private military, militia-based, whatever you want to call it, that is backed by Russia, and it says that Vladimir Putin is affiliated with them. So basically, it's the long right arm of the Russian Empire, okay? So remember, Russia is part of Brics. So we're pulling up the article about the last video, 2 African countries are going to be now involved. They have Wagner groups in other parts of African countries. And as we move on in this video, you're going to hear that this is a universal thought process in Africa. All right. As they realize there's another place where I can get some resources, another place that's going to treat me better than the West, you're going to see a shift going towards it. And this is what this white man is going to tell us.
Hey, Cap.
Yes, sir.
So would they be akin to the U.S. jackals that go into these countries and they help overthrow countries and they help start these coups? Is that what this is?
I think the better way to say it, not better way, but I think you're right. But I think it's defense against the jackals.
Okay.
I think it's them setting some sort of structure there to protect them, because at the end of the day, they still want to take their resources. So it's maybe a little bit nicer version of a jackal. That's the way I look at it. But because anytime you have an Edomite there in a black man land, he ain't there for no good. He might destroy your heart with a gift. And to them, I would rather have, if I'm going to have an oppressor who makes my life a little easier. So, but play on. Number 2. I'm going to be quiet.
Well, most of Africa, tragically, is not a great place to live. It's very sad. And when they first created this thing called Africa Command, I was still on active duty. And I had the misfortune to open my big mouth in a room full of generals and others and say, what the hell are we calling this place Africa Com for? Africa Command? Are you crazy? If you were an African, what would you think about the United States if it created a military organization called Africa Command? I said, I'd be offended. So whatever you do, don't call it Africa Command. Well, obviously, I had a big impact. I was invited to leave, and I was not invited back to any more of those meetings. Look, Africa
so real quick, to show you that there are Edomites, that I'm not giving them a pass, but there are Edomites that try to have some sort of sense and say, look, you disrespecting them. This guy was a high-ranking guy. To be in a room with a bunch of generals, you got to be. They don't send a corporal in there, or a friggin' lance corporal in there, or even a sergeant. This guy was brass. So he's like, look, this is not wise. He was not invited back. So he was trying to go against the grain, just spit this guy out. Now he's going to continue to go on. Well, why? Why is Africa doing? Why is the Wagner group allowed there? Why are Russia starting to transition in? He's going to tell you why. And it's because the title of the show is very obvious.
Place. The French portions that you're talking about in Northwest Africa have been called Afrique du Nord. This is a famous area that the French have dominated in imperial times, and they've dominated it since then, certainly in many ways, linguistically and culturally. The problem is that the Africans resent it. They've never felt as though
Pause real quick. Not only do the brothers and sisters in Northwest Africa, like Ghana, Benin, did they resent it? What do you think the people in Ethiopia, you think they love it? It's a consensus across the West is, they call them the great state. They can't stand the doggone white men in America. And Russia, compared to them, is a cool glass of water. Now they're like, hold up. You telling me that South Brazil's a part of this? Russia? China? Wait a minute. So we have options? We don't have to be dominated by this force? And now you got brown people. A lot of Arabs are coming in now. And Arabs got money. So they started to think, wait a minute. Maybe we don't got to we have another option, okay? So this is what's going on internationally. Here's the thing that frustrates me is that this should be the biggest news on the planet Earth. Show me one mainstream white that's picking this up in any type of depth. They might 30 seconds or whatever, and they just dismiss it. This should be major news, and it's not. This should be absolute unprecedented news, and again, it's not.
Hey, they would probably treat it like they did Val Kilmer's dad. You know, hear it and say, "Go ahead that way," and you know, we'll call you when we need the story. Then they were going to call.
Right. Play on.
Came to independence from France because the French stipulated in all of the agreements certain French interests had to be protected and receive special treatment. And the French army is renowned for going wherever French interests are at stake, business interests, and the Africans are fed up with it. And so this is an example in Niger where a supposedly U.S.-backed government with a U.S.-trained military suddenly turned around and said, I think all of you white people need to get out of here. We've had it with you. Go away. Go. Europeans leave. The Russians, haven't done business that way. The Russians, in fact, Putin recently forgave $23 billion of debt owed to Russia.
Pause. You see, and this is, so I was wrong. I said 30 billion. $29 billion worth of debt. 23 billion worth of debt relieved, meaning he, wrote it off. Putin, to be an Edomite, to be a devil, he's a much nicer devil than Biden in the U.S., okay? Play on.
Cap, I think,
Yes, sir.
like he was saying, like a lot of these Africans are like, we don't want you here. Leave. Right. I don't think that the ideology that Gaddafi had just left with his death.
Right.
I think a lot of them saw what happened, maintained what they wanted and thought in their head, but just waited for the right time to start executing the same things that he wanted
Going to the
do.
Gaddafi, a lot of people don't know about that. What did Gaddafi
Yes.
try to do?
So Gaddafi, just like Brics, tried to come up with an African currency for Libya and a few other countries, as well as I think it was a country in South America that was going to join him as well. And the U.S. found out about it, and they killed this man, took him out. Now, he had a lot of allies, Gaddafi. He had people that were living with free electricity. Like, he was for his people. The U.S. couldn't make money off that. So they had to take him out. And they were going to start taking major countries away from the U.S. dollar. Same thing with Brics. You can't have this sort of ideology go out there and not have people that were once a part of that not try to join in as well.
Right.
I think Gaddafi was his way of thinking died with him. No. Other people thought the same way. They just saw what happened to Gaddafi and the way he was murdered because of what he stood for, his people, and getting away from the U.S. dollar, trying to build power on their own. They're not going to say, well, I want to do the same thing Gaddafi did. Nah, they're going to start being more strategic with it. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that.
Can we get a scripture? 1 Maccabees chapter 8, verse 15 and 16. Because our people don't understand, like, they say, oh, we're Democrat. Oh, we're Republican. Let's see what the Bible say. 1 Maccabees 8 and 15.
The book of 1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 15.
It's all the same thing.
To the end that they may offer sacrifices.
That's 1 Maccabees 8 and 15.
You and Esdras.
And while he gets that, this is heavy because there's a scripture for everything. We're going over a topic, and his spirit came off some mic and said, oh, I remember that scripture. He didn't plan that. The Bible is going to give us some understanding about what we're seeing right now in 2023. And the Bible is going to give us a lesson. It's going to give us some understanding.
1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 15. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting a way for the people, to the end that they might be well ordered.
This is your American government right here. So our people think that, oh, they Democrat, they Republican, they feuding. They're not. They're all the same thing. Read verse 16.
And they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country,
Here's a point I want right here.
and that all were obedient to that one.
Because they all obedient. You may think that they speaking something different. They all on the same vein. Ain't nothing gonna change. They all about, look, okay, we see what Brics is doing, but I'm telling you, this beast here called Babylon, these red-blooded Americans over here, they all saying the same thing. Finish it off.
And that there was neither envy nor emulation among them.
When you start messing with their money, ain't no emulation, no envy among East. They don't play when it come down to their resources. They don't play. They, like you say, the jackals.
Yeah.
They got the jackals on deck, and they got a military.
So, and that's a hell of a point, because at the end of the day, Russia and the U.S. are brothers, but the Lord is going to use them to divide. And here's the thing. We went as a congregation to see that movie Oppenheimer, okay? And when I'm not going to do any spoiler alert, but in Oppenheimer, you're going to find out that the motivation for that was the arms race. That's what it was. The whole movie was an arms race. I'll just leave it like that. The thing that with Gaddafi, going back to what Officer Matthews was going to, Gaddafi didn't have the nuclear capacity. Guess who has a lot of nukes? Russia and China.
And Iran.
And Iran. and the position of Iran now, if we talk about getting a currency, well, also the currency, don't you need military to back that up to protect your commodities? So here's the thing. Iran's position, pull up the world map real quick. Look at how close it is to Israel. Look at how, also, now look at South America. Now you have Argentina and Brazil. Oh, look at you can control the waterways with doggone Saudi Arabia and also Ethiopia.
Right.
You got Egypt. Look at India. Look at China. Okay. Look at Russia. The Lord is Most High God is behind all of this, and it's all of this is going to lead up to. No one knows it. We don't know when it's going to happen. It's going to lead up to us being delivered. All of this is the precursory actions for World War III.
ACAP. You know what's heavy about Iran joining Brics? Iran still is flying that flag for Soleimani.
And back on that map right there, can you see right there where it says Iran, Afghanistan? I remember when I was over there. It would be certain stuff, and the Esau would get they would get mad when we would run across certain devices and stuff like that. They would have like made in Iran on it or whatever. Mm-hmm. Afghan and Iran, they were already pretty much doing handshakes and stuff back then. They couldn't stand it, but they were already working together.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and also look at this, because you go back to the map. You look at where Iran is in relation to Israel, right? And then you look at Saudi Arabia. And then you look at Egypt. Mm-hmm. Do you see what's going on here?
Surrounded. Go.
Mm-hmm. They're playing go.
Hey, and if you look, check it out. Like you mentioned, Officer Micah, you've got we got a video a little bit later about Saudi Arabia and Iran, right? That's the Arabian Peninsula. That whole area is Arab, where Arabs live. But then Afghanistan and Pakistan, you think they just left Afghanistan after the longest war, besides the Civil, was the longest war in U.S. history. So you think that they're pro-U.S.? So look at that bridges the gap between Iran and China. And then India's right there, with the second largest population in the world is in India, second to China. Listen, y'all, you living in this is some end day times. Okay? This is why it's good to look at a map. Look at a map. Look at the Arabian Sea. Now they're gonna lock these waterways down. You mentioned.
Remember what they did with their U.S. ship that was in.
Yes. Yes.
Iran
he made
called
the
them
Marines apologize.
Yeah, Iran wasn't playing with that.
Hey, Cap, they actually already have that lockdown because India is a part of BRICS, and you look at that. You got to get to India to even get to the Arabian Sea. Then you got the United Arab Emirates, you got Saudi Arabia, you got Iran. They already have that waterway locked down.
And they ain't coming through Iraq because they ain't trying to hear that.
Right.
And if you try to slide past, zoom in. If you try to slide past Amman or Yemen, where you running into? Ethiopia. When they just say Ethiopia is trying to join.
Yep. And remember this. We're gonna go back to this video with this. He's a brass. I don't know. It doesn't say what branch of service he's in, but they have it. The mindset, the so-called white man in America, the United States has the mindset to control that place. Russia is a little bit more smart. They said, look, if we can get their trust, we'll relieve their debt, we'll give them free food. It'll be a little bit, now they'll get them believing. But at the end of the day, all of this is they're tired of the West. This whole region is tired of the United States. Because check this out. What the British was involved in the oppression of the India, right? The British was involved in war with China when you go back. Okay, the white man is his nose and his hands in all these militarily, all these regions. They destabilized it and fought with all these areas. And the world is tired of the West, okay? And like one of you brothers mentioned, and they ain't talking about Canada. Nobody give a damn about Canada, okay? They ain't talking about Luxembourg. They're talking about the United States and the EU. So let's finish up the video. We are, might have to do part 2. Okay.
By many of these countries in sub-Saharan and some of Saharan Africa. I mean, it was never going to be paid back. You had a much better shot of profiting if you just forgave it, turned back the clock to 0 and started over, which is what he's done. We would benefit from doing similar things in many parts of the world. In fact, we would benefit enormously if we simply admitted that we can't go on with the enormous sovereign debt that hangs over our heads, but nobody will do that. The point is, I think it had less to do with the Russians or the Chinese and simply...
Pause real quick. He said it has less to do with the Russians or the Chinese. Those are the 2 major players in BRICS, hands down. Watch what he says.
To do with the anger and frustration that built up for a long time towards colonialism. And the Africans said enough. We
Pause.
should say...
That's all we need. The Africans said enough. They're tired of colonialism. People understand and are waking up every day that there's this unilateral power. It's just not a monopoly anymore. Okay, the internet's changed a lot of the way business is done. Go to number 3. I'm going to speed up. I'm taking a little bit too much time on this. I'm dragging it out. Let's go to number 3, please. I like this lady. This lady is the CPA. She's that. She's talking about BRICS, and I don't have a timestamp, but I'm gonna tell you when to jump though. We pulled her before. Her name is Lena Petrova.
It's important to follow the money, Cap. You gotta follow the money. You could see what's going on with the actions, but the money tells the story.
And all of us that we should pay attention to. That's why I said before, pay attention to your own money at home. If we know that this is not our rest, and like Bishop Nathaniel has called to us, look, we gotta push this truth. Okay, in Cincinnati, in New Orleans, in Miami, the truth's gonna go out. I'll take any soldier officer of 10 can hold it down. Mm-hmm. We need to get to these places where there's strongholds, where our people are not being taught. In order to do that, you gotta track your finances. You need a brand new car? You get a brand new car, you gotta pay $300 insurance. You need a house with 5 bedrooms and you got 1 kid, 2 kids? Come on, man. Let's start this ain't our rest. Be wise. Get financial counsel. Okay? So let's hear the CPA, Miss Lena.
Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. The 15th BRICS Summit has ended. Its 3rd and the final day was really interesting because it was filled with highly anticipated announcement on the bloc's expansion this year, as well as commentary on new trade ties and currency. But first, before I get into the details, I hope that you consider subscribing to my channels on Rumble and YouTube. I would love to see you join me on Rumble, by the way. Make sure that you like this video so more people see it, and find me on Substack for more content. So as expected, one of the biggest announcements made during the final day was the leaders' decision to admit new members. BRICS leaders agreed to admit not just one country, but a group of 6 new members. Remember the famous quote by Kissinger, control oil and you control nations, control
Pause
food.
right here. This cracker right here. Kissinger, you hear him talk. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Cap.
So Kissinger, Henry Kissinger is one of the most quoted men. And he's right. If you control oil, you control nations, control food, and you control people. They know that. That's why the U.S. is not going to allow this to go down. That's why there's going to be a World War III. Russia's not stupid. They can't do it alone. They cannot do it alone. But when you have China, you have Russia, now you have India, then you have South Africa. South Africa is a pawn, but it's still positioning. And from South Africa, why do you think South Africa is so important? It's the first African nation, which opened the door for what? Ethiopia. It opened the door for doggone Egypt.
Yep.
Then when they get Nigeria, which is the most population, they're going to lock that continent down. You get the Russian mercs, what they call them? Wagner. They got mercs in there now. Russian back. Look at South America. The entire country now is 2/3 or more is Brazil and Argentina. Then remember, Mexico is one of the ones that is strongly. They're not playing. The U.S. has got a real rivalry. And guess what? With that, we got to watch and pray and look. And while this is all going down, get your passports, get your money right, position yourself so the prophets can go out to these places while this is happening, and we're going to preach the gospel. Because when the end comes and the time is the 143,999th, and that last one is sealed, he's sending the bombs, and we're going to be delivered. So we're living in at the very end. Okay, we're living in the last. We may see this in our lifetime. I'm just making a joke. I'm not guaranteeing. Come, Jim said no. I'm saying we could see it. Maybe Officer Matt could be 70. I could be 83. We could see it in our lifetime. Lord spare us. Okay. Remember that quote. Play on.
And you control people. So the new BRICS bloc will be in control of 80%, that's right, 80% of the world's oil production.
Pause. Somebody say something, please. Somebody say something.
You gotta think about it. Brazil is really close with Venezuela. The U.S. de-dollared their money, devalued it to the point to where people were throwing their money in the streets. They couldn't do nothing. Venezuela has the biggest oil reserve in the world. Brazil has Venezuela's back. Now Argentina has Brazil's back. They got so many resources just on this side that it's ridiculous. You got two countries that have over 1 billion people in it. China has the world's largest standing army. When I was in the military, I'm pretty sure, Michael, you can attest to this. They used to say China has more soldiers than we have bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, they said like in a traditional war, you can mow down probably thousands of them and they'd still wipe. Like in a standing one-on-one fight, China would just wipe them out.
Yep, because they have so many people. Now they got so many resources. Now they're linked up with Iran, India. Isn't India like holding the record for some of the most intelligent people on the planet? Supposedly.
Now, according to the world, they have India and China. They're very intelligent with regards to the math and sciences for their youth. And that's what's producing these engineers, all of these technological advancements in cell phone technology. And Huawei is like went past everybody. And that's a Chinese company. And they're really pushing the science into the maths. And that's why they try to steer black kids away from the science and math, the harder class. I tell y'all, all of our children, if they should all be in the hardest classes because we're the smartest. We need more in the nation of Israel. We need more engineers. We need more doctors, lawyers, and economists. We need that in Israel, okay? Mika, you about to say something, please.
It says that BRICS now holds 80% of the world's oil reserves. If you go back to the petrodollar,
Damn,
the U.S. was controlling all of that with their dollar. Now BRICS is coming and attacking them directly in their pockets. The United States is not going to let this happen. World War III is imminent because you're playing with their money now.
Yeah, Esau go to war for their money.
Yes.
They go to war for their money. Money is control. Like Kissinger just said, you control the oil, you control everything else. If BRICS owns 80% of the oil, then that means the United States ain't have that oil stronghold. So that means there's no petrodollar. If there's no petrodollar, well, now we got to go take some dollars.
Let me tell you something. The petrodollar funneled all the money to the U.S. dollar, which directly benefited the United States. If BRICS, and we're going to get into it later, they did not establish a currency, but there was talks about a currency. If they establish a currency that they can agree on, and by the way, we're gonna see it a little bit later on. The 2024 BRICS conference is taking place in Russia. So everything I'm telling y'all gotta watch. We living in the last days. 2024 is going to be in Russia, okay? And the currency talks at that point will be if they came up. Let's say they use the yen, the Chinese yen, and if they control 80% of the oil, and they decide that all of those countries trade in the yen, like you said, the U.S. ain't having that. One thing the U.S. does have is they have naval and air superiority, militarily speaking. And guess what? They're going to put it to the test. And guess what? These other armies, Russia, they got nukes. Russia has more nuclear weapon armaments, a bigger nuclear weapon armament than the U.S. Not by much, but they have that, okay? So, again, they got to use them. And the prophet Isaiah did not prophesy in vain, okay? It is good, like a fig falling from a tree. It's about to pop off.
Hey, Cap, our people don't understand. You're not going to go to a store and it's going to say, we don't accept cash here. Like, you know, you see a sign that say no EBT accepted here. You're not going to go to a store and say no American cash accepted here. U.S. ain't finna roll let that happen.
Right.
Nope. Hey, and just so, like Cap said, we ain't going to spoil it. But if you haven't watched Oppenheimer, you need to go see that movie because they'll put it out there like, well, now that we've reached, what we have, Russia's not going to try anything anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. You can say that, but like Cap was just saying, they have more nuclear reserves than a lot of people are aware of.
Hey, Cap, to your point about the Chinese yen, the United States actually might be more accepting of that, but with the BRICS summit being in Russia in 2024, and there's talks of currency. What if they decided to use the Russian ruble?
Hey, listen, as we go on, so far we covered one natural resource, and that's the oil, right? Kissinger said you control oil, you control nations, you control food, you control people. And check this out. When you look at the map, pull up the world map again. And we're gonna probably cover this again next week because it's just too much information. It's almost 11 o'clock already. There's just too much information. So wherever we get to, we're going to stop tonight. And we still didn't go to break yet, did we? Okay. Now, let's look at this. Officer Matthew mentioned about Venezuela. Go do it to South America first. I know I'm throwing a curveball at you. So, Venezuela is a very small country in relation to Brazil and Argentina. They have a huge amount of oil reserves. Now, also, if you now know that two of the largest and the biggest economies in South America, wouldn't you feel a little bit more safe and less reluctant to join if you know that the major economies on your continent have already aligned themselves? It's the same thing going back to Africa. It started with South Africa, then it's Ethiopia, then it's Egypt. Those are major players. Then the biggest one is Nigeria. Over 100 million people. As they begin to come on board, guess what's going to happen? BRICS will continue to grow. 80% they control now of the world's oil reserve. And now go back to the Arabian Peninsula real quick. I know I'm talking fast. On the most amount of crude oil mined or drilled from the earth is right in that peninsula. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the oil fields there, that's what they did. I remember one of my staff sergeants, he got sick later on because they popped, this is in the early 90s, they popped the oil fields, they burned them. And he got sick because he didn't get sick while he was there. Later on, he got respiratory problems real bad because that's how much oil they have. They have oil that just pisses up. They pop, they just burn it. They kept burning, they burned for months and months. And they still have a plentiful supply of oil. That oil on that peninsula, now, when you have Iran and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab, help me out, Emirates, and then there's another one. There's 4 Arabs. No, you're right. There's 3. I'm wrong. There's 3 because you had Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia. Then there was Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting tired, y'all. Excuse me. Play on. I know I'm throwing you a curveball.
It is no surprise that the new members of the bloc are Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. They have been invited to join. Their membership will take effect on January the 1st, 2024. With its expansion, the GDP of Brics is now 36% of global GDP, and they now represent 46% of the world's population.
Pause real quick. So if you look at the world's population, let's quantify it real quick. If there are 6 billion people, right, and maybe it's 7 billion people, that means that the populations of the countries is damn near half at 46%. What that means is that's over 3 billion people. Plus maybe Google how many people on the planet Earth right now. It's either 8 or 7 billion, something like that. Is it 8? So whatever that number is, take damn near half, which is 46%. They have 46% of the world's population, 30-something% of the gross domestic product for the entire world, and 80% of the world's oil. Say again? So 46% of 8.1 billion is damn near, it's like 3.8 billion people are in Brics, and they only have 11 countries in this. They're going to keep expanding. You don't understand. This is the alliance that is going to push World War III. This ain't Gaddafi's crew. This is a lot bigger than Gaddafi's crew. Play on.
Nearly half of the world's population is now part of the Brics bloc.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates.
Pause real quick. Do me a favor. I should have sent this earlier to you. My apologies. I want you to look up the definition of Shiite Muslim and Sunni Muslim. Please do that. Then I want you to go down to, there's a video. It's a short. It's a YouTube short. There's not a lot of, it just came to me real quick. It's down where it says Iran, Iraq. It explains what the beef was between Iran and Iraq. It's number, is it 6? Hang on a sec. I'm sorry. I think it's number 6. Oh, gosh. Go to number 6. That's it. Why is it important? Because they're all Arabs, whether they call themselves Sunnis or Shiites. This is very important that we understand this, as well as Bishop Nathaniel continues to go into our Arab captives, our Arab captors, our Arab oppressors. You might think, well, surely the Sunni or the Shiites are a little bit better. No, they all had your people in slavery. It doesn't matter what sect of Islam they was from. So why is there a problem between Iran and Saudi Arabia? It goes back to World War II era, and shortly after, the so-called white man was involved in a lot of the pressures in that area. Let's go ahead and play this short.
The British remained strongly opposed to this idea and began an active campaign to undermine Mossadegh's government, hiring thugs to...
We missed the part. Please.
The British remained strongly opposed to this idea and began an active campaign to undermine Mossadegh's government, hiring thugs to incite violence and establishing an embargo on Iranian oil.
So pause. So Iran had oil production, and this is after World War II. World War II ended. We see Oppenheimer, 1945. They dropped the bomb, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is 8 years later. So up until that time, Iran was trading in oil. The British went in, caused confusion, send their their thugs in, which is their AKA their jackals, and put an embargo on Iranian oil. This is not far after World War II. The white man was causing confusion amongst these Arabs from the inception. So don't get it twisted. A lot of these Arabs probably would have been together. And they label, well, they're not together because this religion, they're Sunni, they're Shiite. Don't know. The white man causes all the evil and confusion there is by this guy. We played it. Rewind it again.
When the CIA got involved, the British had spent up to £2.2 million, $78 million today, to create regime change and end the prime.
I'm sorry. I want to start the video again, please.
The British remained strongly opposed to this idea and began an active campaign to undermine Mossadegh's government, hiring thugs to incite violence and establishing an embargo on Iranian oil. By 1953, when the CIA got involved,
So
the
pause
British...
real quick. So you have the British special interest in Iran's business, showing you that this white man is the same man. How does the British government get involved and then all of a sudden the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, now they're involved because they work together. Why? Because what Kissinger said, if you control the oil, you control nations and people. The white man is not stupid. You play with his money. This is how he got his international control. This is how he got the petrol agreement with Saudi Arabia, because they caused destabilization and confusion in these Arab countries. Play on.
Up to £2.2 million, $78 million today, to create regime change and end the prime ministership of Mossadegh, who remained popular. The CIA paid gangsters in Tehran to incite violence against Mossadegh's communist supporters and support a military coup against Mossadegh's government.
The U.S. paid people to go in like they did with Antifa today.
Yep, Antifa.
Like they do, like they try to do in Kazakhstan, and Russia squelched that. Like they did in right now in, what's the country they're fighting over there? Ukraine. All of that is the so-called white men want to get resources. He creates situations, creates coups, create uprising, and he funds the whole damn thing to cause destabilization so he can come in and put his military, his puppet government in so they can control. That's exactly what he does. Matter of fact, give me Job 9:24 real quick. We got this. Esau's the damn devil. Esau is the deceiver. When I say the devil, Esau is the deceiver of the earth. He comes to you with peace, and in his heart is war. War.
This is the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24.
This is how you know the Bible is true. This is why every empire, whether it be India, China, Russia, the so-called white man and his allies is behind all the confusion, all of the coups, and all of the puppet governments. Read.
The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not he, if not where and who is he?
So the point is this. The earth is given to this white man in America, and that's why he does whatever. How the hell can you come in to an all-Arab area and then take control? Think about, how do you go into an all-Arab area? This is before they was in Gulf War #1. How does that happen? It started right after World War II. They realized, wait a minute. They dropped the A-bomb, Oppenheimer, the race for the arms against Germany. They dropped the bomb. Then what they do? Well, we got to build our highway system. They copied Germany to build the interstate highway. We covered that in another show. Then once they did that, they said, you know what we need to make everything happen? We must control oil. So then they started to send, they worked with Europe, with Britain. They sent in the ops in. They took control, destabilized the government, put an embargo on Iran, and divided Iran from Saudi Arabia. They put the brothers to sleep. The dragons of Arabia, they started to put them asleep. And then they caused so much confusion that they looked to war with each other. When it was the white man being a puppet up their back and causing them to cause confusion. Okay? Go back to that video, please.
Who remained popular. The CIA paid gangsters in Tehran to incite violence against Mossadegh's communist supporters and support a military coup against Mossadegh's government. After the coup, the CIA and MI6 gave power to Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was granted authoritarian control of the...
Hold up. That don't look like the most Arab featured type of guy there.
Nope.
So they put a guy probably groomed and raised in American schools with American philosophy in, he has an Arab name, and now he's the puppet government for Iran. Well, guess what? Now, if he has your best interest at mind, now Saudi Arabia, now you could cause him to cause division with the other area to destabilize that area and cause them to look at them like enemies. And they only are separated by Iraq. Okay? Play on. Okay. Go to the next video, next article, please. Next article. Where we at? No, for this is yes. China. Number 4. We went to number 5, we went to 6, we're going to number 4. All right, this guy's good. All right. So, I have this time stamp? No. What is this, 3 minutes? How long is this? We just do the first 3 minutes.
At the 2023 Brics Summit, and Western leaders are quickly realizing the unipolar world led by the United States is long gone, and the future is most definitely a multipolar world where smaller countries around the globe want 2 things. Number 1, their voices to be heard, and number 2, to be treated fairly and equally. 2 weeks ago, leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa met for the 15th annual Brics Summit to discuss plans on how this new political alliance will change the world. You might think that's an exaggeration, but changing the world and breaking free from Western hegemony is the exact
Pause that real quick. I don't know how many people actually heard it because it took a second for it to register for me. It's at the 15th annual Brics Summit. Brics has been going on for 15 years, and I know y'all are probably just now hearing that acronym Brics. So this has been in the works for 15 years behind the scenes. Just wanted to point that out. Y'all play on.
To discuss plans on how this new political alliance will change the world. You might think that's an exaggeration, but changing the world and breaking free from Western hegemony is the exact mission of the Brics Alliance. And as you'll see in today's video, they are quickly making this dream a reality. The big news from this summit is Brics will be expanding in January 2024 and welcoming 6 new countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Argentina, Egypt, and Ethiopia. The expanded Brics network will comprise of 11.
Pause real quick. So we look at this map, right? Before, and we're gonna have a part 2 next week, but we're gonna continue on. Almost the entire continent of Asia is in green. Okay, almost the entire continent of South America is green, and guess what? The floodgates are going to be open for Africa. Because you have, like we mentioned before, all right? So there's 11, and then in Russia in 2024, the next will be in Russia, and guess what? There are at least a dozen more, to include Mexico, and to include other African nations that are set in looking to join going forward. Play on.
Have almost half the world's population and produce a third of the world's GDP.
Expansion is historic, reflecting the resolution of the Brics countries to unite and cooperate with other developing countries, meeting the expectation of the international community and serves the common interest of emerging markets and developing countries.
China is the big winner from this Brics summit, as it has secured massive deals with both Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has officially...
Pause real quick. So I'm going to use this as a moment to break and go to number 5. What did China do? China's not stupid. China wants to secure oil, right? Brics controls now 80% with the new alliances that begin in 2024. China is the diplomacy healer between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This video is going to explain what is the history, why did they have a problem between Iran and Saudi Arabia? Well, number one, it started with the British and the CIA. We just went into that. But also there's they try to put it off as religious as well. And that's why I want the Sunni and Shiite, because a lot of us don't know, a lot of us, our experience being in this country is the Nation of Islam. That's what I was exposed. I didn't know anything about Shiite, Sunni. We knew the Nation of Islam was an offshoot of Islam. And it started in the jail system. Farad Muhammad, Malcolm X made it famous. But a lot of us don't understand that what changed Malcolm X's philosophy or outlook is when he went to Mecca. And he got polluted because he saw Edomites who treated him nicely, unlike the American Edomites. So he thought that all of them was hope for different races, which Malcolm, he fell off on that. But let's play this. Yeah, let's do that. I should have gave that to you earlier.
What are the differences between Sunni and Shiite Muslims? Tensions between Saudi Arabia and Iran that date back decades have heated up this week after the Saudis execute a prominent Shiite opposition clerk, Shaki Nim al-Namir. Much of the regional rivalry is about who wields the most political muscle in the Middle East, but it has its roots in a rift between the Sunni and the Shiite disciplines of Islam that opened 1,400 years ago.
So real quick, so now here's the thing. Esau will always try to frame it in a different light. A lot of the sources you'll say is, oh, it's religion. Yeah, and there may be some divisions between the Islam and the divisions of Sunni and Shiite. But make no mistake about it. Behind the scenes, it is the European white man and the American white man that's causing this, and he'll say, oh, it's because of religion. No, because you sent mercs in there, destabilized their governments, set up jackals, set up your puppet, and then cause division between the leaders of the countries. Esau knows exactly what he's doing, so don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. But we're going to read about it. Play on. Read on.
Saudi Arabia is the most powerful purveyor of Sunni Islam. Far and away the largest sect. Iran is the heart of Shiite Islam. Here's a short primer on the schism between the sects.
Now we're going to understand what is the difference between the Sunni and the Shiite. Sunni and the Shiite of those regions. Iran being the, let's read on.
The divide is traced to 632 AD, when the Islamic prophet Muhammad died and a debate emerged about who should be his successor. Both sides agreed that Allah is the one true God and that Muhammad was his messenger.
So pause. Isn't that kind of similar to Christianity? You got the Catholics, you got the Protestants. They believe that God and Jesus died for everybody. So it's the same thing in Islam. They just wanted to know who should be Muhammad's successor. But they both believe in Allah is the one true God. So again, this is the history. Play on. Read on, excuse me.
But one group, which eventually became the Shiites, felt Muhammad's successor should be someone in his bloodline, while the other, which became the Sunnis, felt a pious individual who would follow the prophet's customs was acceptable.
So the Sunnis, right? The Sunnis said, listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the bloodline. But the Shiites are like, no. It must be from Muhammad line. That's one of the differences, okay? And a lot of us might not know that. Not that we have to, we don't follow that faith, but it's good not to be ignorant of knowing what is the difference between a Sunni and a Shiite. Read on.
The original schism between Islam's two largest sects was not over religious doctrine. It was over political leadership. Robin Wright, a joint fellow at the nonpartisan U.S. Institute of Peace and the Woodrow Wilson Center, said. What do Sunnis and Shiites have in common? Both Sunnis and Shiites read the Quran, the sayings of the Prophet. Both believe Prophet Muhammad was the messenger of Allah.
Now, listen, we understand a lot of our people in that religion. The only prophets of the Most High God are the Israelites. So that's just not true, because if you can go into the Quran and show us a prophecy on how it relates to end times, we'd like to see it. All right. So, were you about to say something, Matt? Get the it just came to me. It's not in Amos. It's in about the children of Israel being prophets. I forgot. Amos 2:11. It is Amos. Start at Amos 2:1 and then jump to 11, because when we say this, we don't say this because we understand a lot of our people are caught up in Islam. We don't say this to insult you. What we say is you're in the wrong belief system. Okay, Bishop Nathaniel is going heavily into the Arab slave trade and how we were oppressed up until the 1900s. We was in slavery in Arab countries. Matter of fact, he brought out that 2 years before Malcolm X took his Hajj to Mecca, slavery was existed up until 1962 in the different Arabian countries. Okay, so don't get it twisted. It's not an attack on you personally. It's an attack on the oppression that came with this religion. Okay, bear with me. I'm tired as hell. Read.
The book of Amos, chapter 2 and verse 1. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime.
Right, because that's a judgment on the nation. And there's going to be a judgment also on the Arabs as well. Okay, they're not immune to it as well. That's what it starts off. Now jump to the verse 11.
Verse 11. And I raised up of your sons for prophets.
Now stop. Go to Amos chapter 1, verse 1 real quick.
Amos chapter 1 and verse 1. The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah.
Concerning who?
In the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam.
Read it again, please.
The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel.
Concerning who?
Concerning Israel.
Go to Amos chapter 2:11.
Amos chapter 2, verse 11. And I raised up your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarites. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Israel, said the Lord?
So Amos was from the line of a herdsman of the nation of Israel. The whole books of Amos were talking about the Israelites. The prophets are from the sons. And guess what? The sons of the prophets are back. All right? And that's why you're going to find brothers in this very room that we're going to touch down in these Arab countries, the Lord life, and we're going to preach the gospel amongst all of our people there. And that's what this show is about, is pushing this truth, and we have to bring it out, what's going on. Brics versus the West, it's happening right now. Okay, you're seeing more Arab countries come into it. The prophecies are unfolding, and we're living in these times. Yes, a lot of this might be dry. Well, it's a lot of information, a lot of reading. This is very important that we understand that. Just don't be ignorant of what's being brought out. Understand that a lot of things are happening that they're not going to show you on mainstream news. This is why it's important that we do our research and be able to bring it to y'all. All right? So go back to the, yes, we're almost done.
Both Sunni and Shiites read the Quran, the sayings of the prophet. Both believe Prophet Muhammad was the messenger of Allah.
So they both read the Quran. They both believe Muhammad. But the issue, like I said before, one thinks it should have been from the Muhammadan line, the bloodline. Others said, listen, it could be a guy that's not part of him. That is one of the major differences. Read on.
And both follow the 5 tenets of Islam. They fast during Ramadan, pledge to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, practice ritual prayer, which includes 5 prayers each day, give charity to the poor, and pledge themselves to their faith. Their prayer rituals are nearly identical.
Pause. Here's my point of bringing this up. You think, and if you let the white man, if you believe what he said, you think that they're that divided? That they would be at war with each other? No. They're just slight variations. The issue is Esau's hand causes the confusion and the destabilization. Now China comes in, and China's like, hold up. Why are you really mad at each other? And guess what? Now they open up embassies. We've covered it before. Iran opened up their embassy back in Saudi Arabia, vice versa. They are both the most powerful Arabian countries. And guess what sits in it? Iraq sits in the middle of them. And now you have the UI, the United Arab Emirates. They're a part of it. So now you have the whole Persian Gulf area, which is oil rich. Kissinger said you control oil, you control nations, you control food, you control people. And they're part of BRICS. It don't take a rock to hit you in the head to realize that, listen, the Lord is Most High pulling all this together. U.S. is going to not be trumped, if you will. That's why you better be prepared, because once they make this dollar digital, it's going to be economic warfare on all fronts. And listen, man, it's going to get heavy. It's going because you start. Officer Micah said, you start playing with Esau's money, he going to go to war. And then when you start going to war with BRICS, you're dealing with a whole litany of people that have of nations that have nuclear armaments. Who do you think North Korea side with? Russia and China. Russia got the nuclear arms. China got arms. North Korea got arms. You said Iran got arms. Look at the position. What could stop the United States? What would provoke them to go to world war? It has to be a force like this. Russia can't do it on its own. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago, the U.S. was trying to get Iran to stop their nuclear program. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was like, look, y'all need to quit it. And Iran was like, all right, we'll stop. And they continued. They continued on going. Like Mikael pointed out, if they've been doing BRICS summits for 15 years, there's a reason why they had confidence enough to defy the U.S. and continue their nuclear program. Just like when the U.S. killed their number 2 and then bragged about it, right. These people didn't forget. They tell their troops, don't forget 9/11. Right. You think they forgot Soleimani, the number 2 man in Iran that was murdered? And Donald Trump was like, yes, we killed him. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah, we saw opportunity. We just took it, like he was shooting a 3-pointer or something. I saw China took it.
Hey, and that flag that they raised, that was the first time they raised that flag. I want to say in 50 years. It was a very, very long time since they raised that flag. And they know that when you raise that flag, it represents all of the sons of Ishmael. They understand that. You think that Yemen, you think that even Pakistani Arabs, you think that they're happy with that? You think they're all right with that, him coming in and just like the Shiites and Sunnis, there is differences. You think that because they take this guy out. What country was he from again? Iran. So you think that the brothers who were in Saudi Arabia, who are a different slight sect of Islam, you think they wasn't pissed as hell that they killed another Arab? Are you kidding me? How do we know that? We read it in 2 Ezra 15. They're going to remember who they are. Yep. And they're going to wake up, and that's going to be the force. And in that day, that's why we got to get our minds right. And all of this is for us. Where was we at? I went out of order tonight, y'all. We missed the break. We didn't do Bible verses. We didn't do kingdom music. We're not doing Lord Back Attack. We just forgive us. Number 5. So let's get some more understanding about, and these are the most 2 important countries that came into this 6th additional. It's Iran and it's Saudi Arabia. Okay. Play that number 5. And then we're going to go to 7.
And so as this conflict threatens to jeopardize global peace and economy, it's important to remember that this part tussle is rooted in history. The battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia is as old as the hills. It is about religion, it is about oil, and it is about Arab supremacy. And the presence of superpowers like the US and Russia has only served to deepen the divide.
So real quick, she said 3 things. She says it's about religion, she says it's about oil, and she says it's about Arab supremacy. Well, the reality is this. When it talks about oil, right, well, who's trying to control the oil? It's the white man in that region. He caused that confusion about the control of oil. Is it about religion? Okay. We read about Sunni and Shiite. They have so much more in common than they do have divided. So much more in common. And then the last thing they mentioned about Arab supremacy. Well, Esau caused that division to make him feel like he got to be more supreme. Because if we went back to ancient days, okay, there were 12 princes of Ishmael, and they have the same father. So they know, they love each other. Esau just like the U.S. divided the black man in America, so we hate each other. When we was in Israel under King David, we loved each other. So now the Esau is the he runs this earth, he does whatever he wants, and that's the proof in Job 9:24. He controls this earth. He caused a, in order for you to want Arab supremacy, there has to be a lacking where you have to, it's a competitive nature. The West teaches competitiveness. The West teaches that. The West teaches that. I'm better than this. Even amongst them, they got to be the best. Everything. That's why you got the top guy all the way down. Esau has social classes, upper middle class, elite, affluent, lower middle class, middle class. He created all that. Play on.
West Asia is the birthplace of major religions. It's also the epicenter of religious and sectarian conflict. Iran is a Shia Muslim majority country, while Saudi Arabia subscribes to Sunni Muslim supremacy.
Hey, real quick, he said West Asia. That's actually Northeast Africa. Let's be real. That's Northeast Africa. That's not West Asia.
Arabia is home to Mecca, the birthplace of Islam. Saudi Arabia considers itself as the leader of the Muslim world. Iran challenges the view. But there is more to this enmity than just religion. It started with the end of the Second World War.
Remember, we went into that. It started at the end of the World War. What happened? The British spent today's standard $78 million to send ops in to cause confusion, to set up a puppet government, and then to put an embargo on Iranian oil. Esau behind this. And the way that they narrate this, even these people that are narrating this, they try to blind. No, it's a Sunni and a Shiite. No, it's not. They have more in common. They have divided. It's about control of the friggin' oil. And now, because they have so many poor people in these Arab countries, they want to, what Arab company can outsell the other, and they try to, Esau divided them. Play on.
Reza Shah of Iran had close ties with Germany. Britain and Russia attacked Iran to gain control of its oil reserves. While Iran's infrastructure suffered damage, Saudi Arabia was unaffected. West Asia was caught among four simultaneous power tussles: the Cold War between the US and Russia, the fight between Arab nationalists and the last colonial powers, Britain and France, the Arab-Israel dispute, and the fight for the leadership of the Arab world.
Okay, so they keep talking about religion and the fight for the leadership of the Arab world because they created that confusion by setting up puppet governments who competed with each other. Also, in 1948, that's when Israel was implanted. The so-called white man who calls himself a Jew was implanted in that land because before that, remember, the Arab said from Egypt, he says, how is it the Jews left black and they came back white? All of this here was set up by this so-called white man planting the so-called Jewish man in that country, causing the destabilization in Iran. Then he set up and he favored Saudi Arabia. That's why they gave them the deal of the petrodollar, which did absolutely benefit and make Saudi Arabia the richest country because they benefit the most from that other than the U.S. They got a big cut of that. And Iran sees them as sellouts because here you are siding with the U.S., okay? But all that's going to change. Play on.
The last fight has now exacerbated into a straight shootout between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And this is because of the events of 1979. The Islamic Revolution in Iran was the second seminal moment in this conflict. Saudi Arabia considered the revolution as a Shia dominating revolution. The kingdom was threatened because the rise of Iran would put Saudi Arabia's hegemony at risk.
Pause. It said the rise of Iran. That was 1979. What happened in early 1970s? The petrodollar deal. That threatened that deal. And guess what? The U.S. is not having that because who benefited the most? The U.S. The exporting country sends to the importing country. They pay for it with the U.S. dollar. It's a cycle. And Iran is like, hold up, we rising up too. It's a revolution. All of this is set up by the puppet governments. Everything is set up by the U.S. to control the oil. And they're trying to tell you it's about Shiite and Sunni. Do not believe that. Do not believe that at all, y'all. Okay? Play on. We almost done.
Iran had proclaimed itself as an Islamic republic. It
Hold on,
adopted a strong...
That was the Iran-Contra. What was that? Those are U.S. troops. Those are white men. Remember that when they had them, I forget what that was called. I was a little kid. They kidnapped and the Iran hostage. Look up the Iranian hostage or Iran-Contra, something like that. There was a whole thing where they hijacked the plane. I don't know if you remember that. I was very young at the time. They hijacked the plane with those are U.S. Caucasians. Look that up, but it was a plane jacking real quick.
Yeah, Iran-Contra affair.
Because what was happening is the U.S. was, and they was fighting back. They was fighting against the U.S. oppression. You could do a YouTube short, whatever. It's a little dry to some of y'all tonight, but it's...
The Iran-Contra affair, often referred to as the Iran-Contra scandal or simply Iran-Contra, was a political scandal in the United States that occurred during the second term of the Reagan administration between 1981 and 1986. Senior administration officials secretly facilitated the sale of arms to Iran, which was the subject of an arms embargo. The administration hoped to use the proceeds of the arms sale to fund the Contra and right-wing rebel group of Nicaragua under the Boland Amendment. Further funding of the Contras by government appropriations had been prohibited by Congress.
Keep reading.
But the loophole was to use non-appropriated funds. The official justification for the arms shipment was that they were part of an operation to free 7 American hostages being held in Lebanon by Hezbollah.
That's what it was. Do me a favor. I got you. That's good. This is the wrong one. Go to the Iran hostage crisis. That's what it was. I remember I was a little kid, but I remember hearing about this. So remember now, Saudi Arabia made the petrol deal. Iran had their oil messed with in puppet government since the 1945 and after the World War II. Something happened that was major. They hijacked the friggin' plane with like 50 U.S. diplomats on it. I don't know if this is, I forgot about this. I forgot all about this, man. And that's why the U.S. has always had a problem with Iran, because they are like the field Negroes. If you had to put it in perspective, they're like the Arabs that they don't give in. Okay, Saudi Arabia is seen as the passive ones. Okay,
Iran hostage crisis.
Yeah, it should have something. There we go.
The Iran hostage crisis was a diplomatic standoff between the United States and Iran. 52 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage after a group of militarized Iranian college students belonged to the Muslim student followers of the Imam's line, who supported the Iranian Revolution, took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
They surrounded and took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, Iran. And these were college students. And they kidnapped these people, right? I remember this. Read on.
And took them as hostages. The hostages were held for 444 days.
Over a year. Read on.
From November 4th, 1979 to their release on January 20th, 1981.
Come on.
The crisis is considered a pivotal episode in the history of Iran-United States relations.
You think there's any animosity from that while they killed the number 2 guy? Hey, we had the opportunity. We just dared to take the shot, guy. All of that is absolutely rooted in the fact that Saudi Arabia never had that the level of rebelliousness as Iran, okay? And the U.S. tried, and that China said, hold up, wait a minute, y'all brothers, Shiite, Sunni, you're not, you believe Muhammad was prophet, you both read the Quran, you even follow the same set of 5 laws. What's the difference? Well, I believe Muhammad's successor should have been his bloodline. Well, I believe it could be. So that's the only reason why? Do you realize that the U.S. and Britain destroyed y'all? China came in, Mossad put it in them, in China and the diplomats, to make it so that they're able to reopen embassies in each other. Now both of them are joining Brics together. Y'all got to see it. Y'all got to see it. You don't got to remember everything, but just see the big picture. Okay? This is a lot of content tonight. This may be dry to some of y'all. Play.
Iran had proclaimed itself as an Islamic republic. It adopted a strong
Those are white
anti-Western
boys.
stance.
Those are good Christian white boys with blindfolds on that tugged at the heartstrings. At that time, guess who was in office? Jimmy Carter. Right after Carter came Reagan. All of that stuff that's happening. Remember, why did Reagan go so hard body when he came in? Because they had to protect something with Saudi Arabia. They had to protect the petrol deal. They had to protect that. Iran's like, hold up. Iran's rising up. Hold up. So why are you going with them? We brothers still. Why are you going with them? Because Saudi Arabia was getting a kickback, big kickback. Iran was trying to unite all of them Arabs together. Saudi Arabia fell asleep. And I'm telling you, the Lord is behind all of that. Russia, China, India, South Africa, Brazil, now Argentina, and the whole damn Arab Peninsula. Who's in between? Iraq. Who you think they're going to side with? Yemen. Who you think they're going to side with? Russia's 2024. The Brics is the 16th is in Russia. All this is happening right before our eyes. And Russia is fighting the Ukraine, talking about dropping nuclear bombs. All this is going on in our lifetime. And the U.S. is talking about Cardi B and other BS crap and the Lizzo. And what else they talk about today? Sports.
A woman got hit in the head with a brick.
Get hit. This is what you're seeing. They're trying to take all the attention on Trump on a technicality, and that's where our minds go. When the world is rising up and Brics and all this stuff is happening, and we're not paying attention.
They want us to be focused on the fact that Kendrick Lamar's mic went out when he was performing with Beyonce. Like, they did all of this stuff with the hostage crisis in Iran, all of this stuff going on in 1979 all the way to 81. And somehow or another, they still found a way to shove drugs in the black community. Like, still beat us down, and you Christians want to save them same people.
Ironically, while all that was happening in that land, like you said, they pushed drugs into our community in the same time span.
And remember, in the 1960s, we was rising up. And then the 70s came, disco came, drugs came, and then our people began. Remember, also, we did a show about this. Roe versus Wade changed the black community. And that all happened at the same time. From the beginning of the onset of the early 70s all the way to now, that's when the black community and it have pummeled in morality. We have plummeted on morals. All of that is Esau. I'm telling you, Esau he's a master deceiver. That's why when we say Esau's the devil, it's because he's incredibly deceptive. He'll have us believe in his religion and loving him. Meanwhile, he destabilizes the entire Arab area. He destabilized the entire South America recently in our lifetime. Chavez was helping people out. Chavez wanted to send help to damn Katrina in New Orleans and send shipment of medical supplies, and they turned him down. You got to see, like, the U.S. is that guy that destroys everything. Why? Because the Lord gave him power to do that. Mossad gave him power to destroy everything. But Mossad also going to give our time where we're going to rise up. Read on. Play on, excuse me. We're almost done, y'all.
secularism of Shah's regime had given way to a radical Shiite thought. Saudi
So you heard
Arabia
that? Remember, the Sunnis were in Saudi Arabia, correct? If I'm not mistaken. If we can, okay. Sunnis were in Saudi Arabia, right? Shiites were the radicals in Iran. Remember that. Shiites were the radical ones. The radical ones, that's why, remember what they did to the house Negroes and the field Negroes. The field Negroes, I'm just making a parallel. The field Negroes was the ones that rebelled, right? The house, and I'm not saying just because slaves I'm not making that, but you give the slaves in the house a little bit better food, a little bit better stuff. Saudi Arabia got that from the petro deal. The Iranians are like, yo, listen, the hell with Esau. We rising. We know what he did to it. And I think it was Ayatollah Khomeini. That guy you see, look up the word Ayatollah Khomeini. That guy is one of the most famous guys in the history of the Arab world. When you see him on the flags, this guy right here, he was like the guy they killed. They loved him more than that. This guy, I'm not giving him props because all of their forefathers had our people in slavery. To me, they're the same as Esau and the Chinese. All of them had the Israelites in slavery. But I'm just showing you what they did to these people. Ayatollah Khomeini. I don't even know how to spell it. But if you go back to that, I want to show you his picture. That's him. That guy there, if we can hold that image, we go back to that last video, and you're going to see him on the flags. This is the guy that tried to raise up all Arabs to rise up again. But again, Saudi Arabia didn't want to lose the bag. All of that money came through. The U.S., you don't think the U.S. was, for them to sign with the U.S., every deal in oil from export countries got to go to the import, and they got to pay in the U.S. dollar. You think Saudi Arabia that's the richest Arab country by far, Saudi Arabia. Mecca's there. And guess what? We did a show before. They have military bases in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia was getting protected by the U.S. I'm telling you, all this has changed in the last year. Show that video. I want to see the...
Hey, Cap.
Yes, sir.
What you think is going to happen with the Abrahamic house?
Oh.
Maybe that was in the UAE.
The three-face, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
They can't unite all of them, especially now with Amalek. Because if this stuff is going on, because Amalek is tied to the U.S.
Right. That's that New World Order. They wanted to have the so-called Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Bishop did a whole class on that, and he showed you the plans for the. I think they even got one of the setup built already. Ayatollah Khomeini. He was the guy. He was the guy that was going to raise up the Arabs against the so-called white man. That guy. And he's demonized. You see how they demonize him? Well, he's still an oppressor to our people, but...
Yeah, they did the same type of picture with bin Laden.
Right. So can we play that video again? I know, Tech Team, we almost done.
Wahhabism considered Iran...
That's him right there. See him? Now that picture there is from recent times. Ayatollah Khomeini is from way back in the day. He still is talked about. Okay? Now, when we go forward, you're going to see him on a flag in his younger days. Because remember, in 1979, the Arab uprising was in Iran. And then the white man says, well, they're competing for Arab supremacy. No, because you caused the division between the so-called Arabs. Play.
To its supremacy. A conflict simmered.
There's your boy, Saddam Hussein.
Proxy emerged.
By the way, who was a U.S. pawn, who they funded him. U.S. trained in, yes. You see the head. Now he's an Arab. Saddam Hussein is an Arab. All of them is brothers, and Esau pitted them all against each other. Why? Because it was the money. Okay? The money. Money is the root of all evil. Okay? It's first and foremost for the Israelites, but Esau understands that, and he destroys people's hearts. Play.
Soon after the revolution in Iran, Saddam Hussein attacked Iran.
You hear that? Stop. That's important. The revolution happened in 1979 when Iran began to arise. So like you said, what did they do? They found an Arab named Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, they trained him. He was one of the pawns. They used him to do what? Attack Iran. That's divide and conquer. And the thing, I bet you Saddam Hussein, right before he got beheaded, I bet you said, damn, I should have stuck with my Arab kin. I bet you said that. Because what Esau does is he'll pump you up and make you think you're so special, and you forget your own kind. But a lot of them, the Allah Akbar, they didn't forget about the great Satan. They didn't forget about that. They didn't forget about that. A lot of them, they're sitting back, and they're watching, and they're waiting. Play on.
The Iraq War is one of the rare conflicts in the region which demonstrated that the fight was as much for black gold or crude oil as it was for supremacy among Muslim sects.
You heard that? He just told you. He said it wasn't so much for Arab supremacy, it was for oil. Who wanted control of the oil? The U.S. did, because after 1945, when they dropped the bomb, when you read in Revelation, everyone feared the U.S. They ended the war. Japan friggin' surrendered after that. It was done. After that, how do I build my empire? Well, Germany was going to, the whole thing of Oppenheimer was an arms race. Germany, if they had won the arms race, we'd be speaking German right here in the U.S., but the U.S. Mossad allowed Oppenheimer to do what he did, and because of that, we had military supremacy on the planet. Now, how do you got to build your army? You build the highway system. You must control oil. Kissinger told you that. When you control oil, so what do? They destabilize the Arab nations. And now they use a puppet on Saddam Hussein to attack Iran. They pacify Saudi Arabia with the petrol, the kickbacks from the petrol deal. That's why them Saudi Arabian, them are fat cat rich super trillionaires over there. Okay? Play on. We're almost done.
The Iraq War destroyed the regional economy. Iran and Saudi Arabia signed a cooperation agreement in 1998. 3 years later, Saudi Arabia supported Iran's nuclear program. But things took a devastating turn after the September 11 attack.
It said, so first they divided them. Saudi Arabia and Iraq was against Iran. Later on, they started to work through diplomacy, and then Saudi Arabia began to support Iran's nuclear armament, right? Then all of a sudden, September 11, 2001 happened. And then George Bush came out and said, I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what, we're going to war. I don't know if you remember, I remember I was sitting in my living room in Connecticut. I remember watching them towers hit. And shortly after, George Bush, the dumb one, right? Not the old, George Bush, he went against United Nations and launched a full-scale war under the terms what? Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. But right before that happened, Saudi Arabia was in support of Iran's nuclear pursuit. So maybe the conspiracy theorists are right about 9/11. Remember the building blew up? It was explosive that blew the building. Y'all got to see this, man. Esau is the master, the puppet master behind everything. That's why Officer Matt said earlier, he's not going to let Brics go down. But neither is Brics going to give in. There is going to be an escalation of nuclear proportions, and it's going down step by step. So I know this is dry, a lot of reading, a lot of information. You've got to understand what's going on. You've got to know the history of the Arab confusion, the history of the... Listen, the Shiites and the Sunnis, they believe the same damn book. They believe the same damn so-called prophet. They believe the same, the principles of Islam. It's the same damn thing. It's a slight difference between the two. The U.S. tries to create and pit that. It's not about religion. It was always about the control of resources and the control of oil. And the U.S. knew they must cause the division in the Arab Brotherhood. Now, I'm not, Arabs don't get a pass. Just like go watch that show, Bishop Nathaniel's, go to IUSC TV, watch Ishmael. Watch it. Go listen and study. We're not giving the Arabs a pass. We're just showing you that Esau did the same tax they did in India, that he did in China, that he did to our people here in this country, as he did the Arabs. But the Arabs are going to remember who they are, and there's going to be a fight. And it's going to take all of them. It's going to take all. Remember, the EU is going to turn on America. We did shows before how they had mass protests in Spain, in Italy, in Czechoslovakia, where they're like, NATO gotta go. They're saying NATO gotta go. Remember when they caught up the pipeline to Russia, the basic commodities went through the roof. We did shows about how if it wasn't for a mild winter, they would have half of them would have froze to death. The EU is going to buck up against all of them. Is going to come together, and even with the fierce army that America have, God going to make it. Once you start shooting missiles, you shoot one, you shoot another. Give me Psalms 91, last scripture. We went out of order today. We didn't get to Bible verses. My apology. We didn't get to Kingdom Music. We didn't get to Law Back Attack.
Hey, it needed to get talked about, Cap.
Get me Psalms 91. What I want us to think about, right? Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? When they made the furnace and when they was going through the three holy children. Remember that? They were not singed. They did not get burned up. We see all this around. Don't be scared. Don't worry about it. We know that what would cause this type of destruction, and this is not in one land. This is not just going to happen in Detroit, where this is going to happen all over. Read Psalms 91.
The book of Psalms, chapter 91 and verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High.
Why is it secret? Because 99% of black Americans don't even know they're the Israelites. He shows his secrets unto the prophets. And very few of our people, only 1/3 of Israel, and we're not close to that number yet, is going to get this and be delivered. That means 2/3 of our people are going to be destroyed. Read.
Shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
That's protection. A shadow is protection against the sun. It's protection. We're going to be protected with this word. Just like when the three whole children did not bow down when they played the flute, the harp, they didn't bow down. Read on.
I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress.
A refuge is a place you go for safety. A fortress is a strong defense against attack. Read on.
My God, in him will I trust.
How are we going to trust? No matter what happens, we keeping these commandments. Who are we going to trust? We got to trust because we're not going to commit adultery. We're not going to lie, cheat, and steal. We're going to do the things that the Most High said. And if we fall, we're going to get right back up, unlike the Christian lying church. Read on.
Surely he shall deliver thee from the snares of the fowler.
The fowler, that's when you set traps, the snares. So these traps that are going to be set, how are we going to be protected from these traps? Watch this. Come on.
And from the noisome pestilence, he shall cover thee with his feathers.
So the feathers, that's giving an analogy of a bird. If you have a bird, feathers are attached to wings. The shadow is talking about the protection, and he's using the bird now. If you put the wings over, now you're protected. Like you ever see like birds protect their babies, right? The shadow is the protection, right? Read on.
And under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
So the laws of God are going to get us there. We're going to be delivered. The reason why Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were delivered is not because they kept the commandments. That's why they were delivered. That's why Christ was the man in the middle. They said, there's another man. I see a fourth man in the fire. Okay, read on.
Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day.
No, we know it's, y'all heard this. We know it's not talking about arrow by day. Go, if you Google Archer, and Google Archer. I don't give a damn if you had an arrow that was 500 feet made out of wood, a big, huge arrow the size of a damn room. That only gonna kill. It might kill a couple hundred people. This arrow that flies. Read it again.
Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day.
You know why terror by night? Because after they take these satellites down, all the lights are gonna be caught off. It's gonna be always dark and gloomy. Amos said, woe to you that desire the day of the Lord. What end is it for you? Read on.
Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness.
Watch this, it's coming up.
Nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday.
Remember Isaiah talked about the waster. The waster is talking about nuclear. In order for why am I going the long way? In order for all that to happen, you have to have a force that could reckon with the U.S. And that's why Brics is rising up. They got 11. From tonight's show, look at South America, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, like you said, they coming on board. Mexico's right behind them. Now you got the Arab Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, Iran. They healed their broken men that the U.S. caused, that Britain caused. Then you have what? You have 3 African major countries that's coming. That's going to cause them to rise. You have Russia, of course. You have India. You have China. North Korea's in that loop. It's going to take all of them to come against this, because he got the mightiest navy. He got fleets of in the Persian Gulf. He has superiority in the Air Force, aircraft carriers, nuclear weapons. He has submarine warfare. All these things. He's most likely going to use all of this alliance and the EU turn. That's what it's going to take down this damn Esau, Babylon the Great. Read on. That's it. What about the 10,000 on my right? 1,000. That's the most important.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir. 8,000 shall, I'm sorry, Isaiah chapter 91 and verse 7. Oh, Psalms 91 verse 7. 8,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand.
So read it again, sorry.
8,000 shall fall at thy side.
When it says 1,000 shall fall, I mean they die at the same time. So what kind of warfare would make 1,000 die at the same time? It's not machine guns. It's not sword and battle axe. It is a fireball. It's just like Terminator 2 when they was at the fence. 10,000 people fall at your right side. It's gonna happen. So what would make a World War III happen? It has to be something like this, and it's happening in our lifetime. Read on.
And 10,000 at thy right hand.
Come on.
But it shall not come nigh thee.
Well, how's that? That's impossible. How the hell can 10,000 people, and it could be more than that, right? It's a number. How could they die right next to you? It's because you are literally protected. If you have to quantify it, it's a friggin' force field. Think about it. You got to think of superhero term. How the hell, what was around them to protect them for the fire? The Most High made them invincible. We gonna be invincible as gods. Why? If you think about, remember Superman could walk in the sun. Superman could walk in the sun. We gonna have superpowers. And that's why, man, he's using the lowly things, because when you think about the level of who we at, we nobodies, man. We nobodies in this society, and the Lord is gonna use us to become freaking beyond superheroes. So just remember that when you go through your trial and your error, you go through things that depress you, understand that we gonna survive that because we gonna be invincible, immortals. That's what we're trying to get to. And that's why we have to have shows like this. And Bishop, building our faith up, man. Just be ready. Get your passport. Get your stuff right. Live below your means. Get your position yourself. All right? So you men can get out and travel and help wake these. There's our brothers and sisters right now that's over there in the UIA in Iran. They're over there right now waiting for us. They're in Pakistan. They're in Afghanistan. They're in India. We already went out there. If they're in India, you don't think they're in friggin' Pakistan? Come on. So listen, we going we went a little bit over.
You brought it out, Cap. You brought it out. I just wanted the people to understand World War III have to happen. Think about it. It's like a bully that's been messing over the whole block. Now everybody's got their ducats in a row, and it's like, all right, we got this one chance to get this dude. We got to make this thing count.
That's right.
That's what the other nations is doing. That's why the UN is going to turn, because they don't like them anyway.
That's right.
There's already dissension within the UN, but you can't make a move yet. Once they see that they can, they will.
Remember, France tried to get into Brics.
Yep.
And then they caught major backlash. A lot of these European countries are like, yo, hold up. Why you way over there across the pond and you're not struggling? We over here, our people can't even damn barely eat or afford basic commodities like heating oil. You cut which they admitted they blew up the Russia pipeline, Nord Stream. Why would we in Czechoslovakia and in France and in these countries, why would we not want to side with Russia? Because that stronghold is so strong in the EU and NATO. It's very strong. All of that, they're all going to, this like you said it perfectly, they're going to realize that guy's the undeniable bully. That's what Africa's saying. We read before. They're like, white man, even the colonel was in that room. He says, don't call it Africa calm. He said, that's insulting. Them Africans is like, white man, get out and leave. We're tired of you. So guess what? Russia comes along with China, and they're going to forgive $23 billion in debt, give you free barge loads of grain. You got to understand what's going on. The Most High is doing all this because one thing, and if you believe the Bible, it's because it's the setup for the greatest war in history that will be the destruction of our enemies and the deliverance of the 12 tribes of Israel. So with that, tech team, shout out for staying late. Next week, we're going to go back. We're going to continue on with this. A little bit out of order. We're going to get back to our because I know y'all, a lot of y'all like the Bible verses. A lot of y'all like kingdom music. A lot of you like, well, a lot of you don't like Lord Back Attack, but we're going to get back to that next week. Thanks for sticking with us. Any suggestions, please let us know. And that's all I got. I'm completely tired. All praise to the Most High, Officer Michael.
Hey, look, make sure y'all are giving alms. Make sure y'all give alms to y'all local schools. Hey, if y'all want to continue to see shows like this, give alms. For the land fund, make sure y'all giving alms to the land fund. Y'all see it on the screen right there. Make sure y'all donating. Make sure y'all label it land fund when y'all send it in.
That's it. All praise to the Most High. Thank you for another edition of Precept Upon Precept. We are your hosts. I'm Captain Shem.
Officer Matthew.
Officer Mikael.
Officer Micah.
And with that, brothers and sisters, we say shalom.
Shalom.
Love.